Hey again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. Well, behind me here, this is my seeding setup for the spring of 2019. I've just borrowed a corner of a room in the house with some windows in it, so I have a little bit of light, and I've supplemented that with some LED lighting. But the topic at hand today, the one I wanted to show you, is how to seed lavender from seed. If you take cuttings from lavender, that's another way of going about it, but it does take them some time to root, and it can be quite economical to do lavender from seed. So you can get a packet of seeds with 100 or a couple hundred in it, put them into trays like this, and get trays and trays full of finished lavender later on in the spring and summer. So the tray I'm working with here comes to me as just this plastic tray frame empty, and what I do is fill it up with seeding soil, and the seeding soil I use is just a peat-based mix with a little bit of perlite in it for good drainage. It doesn't have any fertilizer in it, so it's starting out nutrient-free, and I loose fill it like this here. The couple of things that I do need you to know about the lavender seeding, and I'll show you here in a second, is that the lavender seeds are actually quite small. Compared to some of the other annual seeds that you would start in the year, the lavender seeds are quite small. Second thing is they require no pre-treatment in terms of cold or stratification, and the third thing I'll say is that they require light to germinate. All that information is something you should Google for any seed that you start, aside from basically the annual flowers or annual vegetables, which all have roughly the same requirements. But for perennials and shrubs, I recommend you do a Google search on them, check out their stratification, which just means do you give them cold first or a cold pre-treatment, and light requirements as they try to germinate. So let me show you these seeds and show you how small they are, and then I'll give you some tips on how to handle them. Alright, just to give you some idea of the scale here, I've got the pencil stuck in behind the dish there, and you can see that these are the size of the lavender seeds, probably at the very most about 1 millimeter round, so makes them a little tricky for handling. With seeds this size, it can be tricky to get just one in every plug tray or every cell in the plug tray. So what I do to give myself a little bit of guidance on that is first I do some dibbling. And here I'm just using the eraser end of a pencil to push in by probably 3 or 4 millimeters. It's not very deep in there, and all that does for me is just gives me a little target in the center of the cell to aim at when I'm dropping these seeds. Now, some people will use other gadgets to help them to get one seed per if they're having difficulty with small seeds like this. With some practice, I found that the easiest way for me anyway is just to grab some between my thumb and my forefinger and roll them until I feel one drop into each cell. And that's all I do. If I do manage to drop 2 or 3, it's actually a little bit of insurance in a way. Like if one doesn't germinate, then another one will. So I don't get worked up about that at all. And if I do find that I have a lot excess in there at the end of the day, I will go back and I will pick some of those out and put them into another cell or into a pot later on if I'm being economical about it. Now, let me show you a plug tray that I started probably about 2 weeks ago, maybe a little less than 2 weeks ago, that already has some seedlings coming up. In this tray you can see that the seedlings are coming up now, and probably I've dropped more than 3 or 4 seeds in some of those, and as I say, I'm not going to get too worked up about that. They're well on their way. Those are just the seedling leaves, but soon they'll have true leaves on them, and I'm going to let them root out in the plug tray just like this until such time as they're well rooted, and then maybe I'll divide some of those and get them into 9-centimeter pots for sale. I anticipate either this summer or maybe I'll hold them over one winter and sell them next spring, in the spring of 2020. Alright, that's how far I've gotten on my lavender so far this season. I may do a little update or at least post some pictures later on when I get to the stage where I'm going to transplant those into the 9-centimeter pots, or when I have the finished crops of lavender, and maybe I'll show that to you later. But in any case, thank you so much for watching today. And if you have any questions about this seeding or any propagation at all, please leave those below the video and I'll see what I can do to help.